everybody, and welcome to the media show on the Pod TV network. I'm Nick Bellavita. I'll be the moderator of today's show. And today's show is revolving around an icon in America called Sports Illustrated. And everybody knows they have their, what they call bikini contest or whatever it is. Well, Sports Illustrated looks like they just died. They fired all their people, they laid everybody off, and no more Sports Illustrated. So we're going to bring in our journalist from around the United States and around the world. First of all, gentleman who has more than 100 years in journalism, has a degree in journalism from Marquette University, which right now is a good basketball team. Bring in Mark Lee to discuss the death of Sports Illustrated, which is a big one for fans of the U, because they said a long time ago that the U should drop football. Guess what? We just dropped Sports Illustrated. Now, with that, also, we do have a person who is from San Francisco, California, an author of a book, Chess for Dummies, a FIDE master himself, Jim Eade. And maybe he has some comments on the death of Sports Illustrated. Yes. No more bikini issues. Okay, for you, Jim. Forget it. Okay, and then, of course, in Canada, we're going to bring in the head of the Ukraine show and also the Modern Investments, Sasha Starr. Welcome to the media show. And today we're going to be discussing something very interesting that just took place, which is Sports Illustrated, which I don't know, do you get Sports Illustrated in Canada, Sasha?
Probably not anymore. I've looked at, I like the issue on a cover of many, many years ago. Robert Fisher was on the cover of Sport Illustrated. Oh. So that, in my opinion, legitimizes this institution. But other than that, I'm not a follower of that.
Really? Okay. See, I did not know that. And of course, we're going to bring in the person who has all the answers. You just ask him a question. He's like Chat GDP for the progressives, and that is Jatovy McDuffie, Chat GDP for progressives. So I can send him the question, and he'll know the answer to that. So Jatovy, what do you think about the death of Sports Illustrated?
It's kind of sad. I mean, Sports Illustrated has been around forever. Had great articles. They did great coverage, but it's just another sign of the times. AI is coming in. It's going to take a lot of jobs, a lot of editors, a lot of writers. Going to take a lot of positions out of the wood. Yeah, I'm sad that Sports Illustrated is dying.
Dying, it looks like they died. And as a University of Miami fan, not to say that I'll show the U, baby, the U. Okay, a long time ago, they actually, and you people remember this, they said the University of Miami should drop football. University of Miami dies. They just attacked us crazily on Sports Illustrated. Well, guess what? Sports Illustrated died. So
are we sure that they're totally dead? Because like I said, there's a lot of layoffs. There's no doubt about that. They do have that very popular swimsuit edition that many people have gone to for years and all along those lines. And definitely they laid off a lot of their staff. There's no doubt about that. But we do know that there can be things that are laid off and definitely then come back in a new form or in a different form. As a matter of fact, they have made the news again, and I'm sure that Jatovy will love this because they made the news recently because apparently, according to Sports Illustrated, cameras caught a topless Jason Kelce, who is the receiver, the tight end to be exact, for the Kansas City Chiefs, and Taylor Swift's other half casually chugging a beer behind Taylor Swift, and apparently the fans love that. So apparently after that very close game, there was a picture with their whole chugging of a beer going on, and there was even one earlier where the folks were watching the chugging of a beer behind Swift and Brittany Mahomes as they celebrated the touchdown.
It was a hilarious picture, but just to point out, Travis Kelce is the tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. His brother, which is the one that had his shirt off in middle of Buffalo, freezing to death, but drinking a beer and doing his thing, is Jason Kelce, who is a center for the Philadelphia Eagles, who announced that, he's considering this year to be, he's considering retirement now, but coming off of this year, but he's thinking about playing one more year because of the way that the Philadelphia Eagles ended their season. But Jason and Travis are hilarious. They're actually really, really fun guys. I think they have their own podcast, but they're two brothers that are really cool dudes, and it's really a neat story about that family.
Yeah, well, let's listen from Jim Eade. What now that he will no longer get a swimsuit edition? I know Jim looks forward to it every year. What are your thoughts about the death of Sports Illustrated, Jim?
Well, I have a lot of things to say. Is that when I was young, it was before the swimsuit issue, and it was must read. And the other thing that was wonderful about it, not only were the articles first rate with writers like George Plimpton, DeFord, I'm sure I'm forgetting people that are as famous, but they were great writers, well in depth, researched. And the other thing that was amazing for a 12-year-old boy was like you could see close up photos of your stars, of your heroes. And we had 3 channels back then, so it wasn't like you had ESPN and you get to see all the plays and all the players all the time. And you got to see what Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier looked like. There was no replacing Sports Illustrated. It was first rate, and it was must read. And but my sister-in-law was a senior writer for Sports Illustrated back in the 90s. And this, slow death started back then with the internet and all the rush to be first. Instead of paying her to write well-researched articles, they put pressure on her to put something online very quickly and, small doses, but very quick. So instantaneous news became more important than the in-depth writing. So the whole magazine, I subscribed to it when she wrote to it, but I hadn't subscribed to it for many, many years. And, the idea that this, slow death is something that's unique is also incorrect because, it's happening to print media all over the place. But it's a death that really strikes home to people like myself, like Jacoby, because, it really served the purpose that no other magazine did. And it also brought to issue things like gender, race. So it's much more than sports oriented. It was really culturally oriented. And you got people like Billie Jean King, who got a mouthpiece, who could say what she was fighting for in women's tennis way back when she had to play Bobby Riggs to make her point. And these types of things can't be replaced by this immediate loop that we're in on the internet. So Sports Illustrated as a print magazine will die. Well, it stays on as an online procurer of sports news. That's another question. And the people that they laid off, by the way, were the union people. Mm-hmm. So they're not out of business. They just laid off all the people that were on a union. So it's cost cutting, and it's their emphasis will probably still be on instantaneous news online.
Yeah, but along those same lines, Jim, and everything, they're not the only ones, because I know that in your area, the LA Times just recently announced a bunch of layoffs. Surprisingly, NBC News, the Washington Post, and another magazine that I used to enjoy reading, or at least several of their publications, because I think they have more than one, but Condé Nast has also have laid off people as well, and everything. Yeah. But I was just wondering y'all's thoughts about this, because apparently, like you just said, because of the internet, a number of publications, particularly print publications, are going to be either strictly online, or they may actually not be anymore, which is what Nick was alluding to and everything. But how important has this internet and social media wave been to the death of newspapers? I know that even here in Durham, and Jatovia is aware of this, there have been some weeklies that have changed their format and maybe aren't as investigative reporting as they used to be. I think about like the Independent, which is here in Durham, but there have been other publications, including some in our African-American community, that have the family members have gone on to the ancestral lands, and there doesn't seem to be any hope of them returning, even though the Carolina Times was a very prominent paper in this area in that sense. But after they closed shop, after one of the last family members passed away, and the next generation doesn't want to take it over, then it becomes a question of whether some of these publications are going to be gone for good, to Nick's point and everything. But what is our thoughts around the impact of the internet?
Well, Mark, even closer to your home, the famous Baltimore Sun has just been purchased, and they for many years have been struggling for the same reasons that we're talking about. LA Times, Washington Post, but the Baltimore Sun has been acquired by a Trump supporter.
Right.
So, instead of reporting the news, there's almost certainly going to be, an agenda in that paper. So the papers that still exist, they may have an agenda rather than being the free press that we always associated with newspapers.
Yeah.
Well, is this what we're going to be seeing more, is print media death? Sports Illustrated being an icon, that looks like it's dying. Condé Nast, which I used to get their travel, it might be dying. LA Times dying. Washington Post dying. Is it because print media just really today cannot compete against the internet and social media? So I should ask the person who knows everything. So I'll ask Jacoby, since he's driving Uber. Is print media just going to die out because social media is killing it?
I think I'm in a bad area, and hopefully you guys can hear me. But yes, print media, it will ultimately die for digital, online, everything else, because of the speed, the pace. Media is a business. I mean, we have to remember that. The news is a business. It's not that it's some free thing that's out there that's paid for, that's, the money comes from nowhere. It's a business. TMZ took off because of salacious interviews and everything else online. It's a business where you can get your clicks, where you can get your likes, where you can get your eyeballs. Yeah, it's print media doesn't have that anymore. You're not, you have no smiley face that you can put, or a thumbs up that you can put on top of anywhere in print media. You can do that digitally. I can check on social media and put something out there that is a lie regardless, but people like it. You know what? I got money off of saying whatever I can. And yeah, so print media is going by the wayside, sadly, but it'll go online. Microsoft, they used AI to write some news articles to be placed on Bing and stuff like that. So yeah, AI is here. It's not going anywhere.
So that means My Mother Jones magazine is going to die?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Long time.
Yeah, Mother Jones will be going as well eventually and everything. But, it's impacted a lot of media, because one of the things that I used to enjoy, and I don't know everybody else, but maybe Jim can relate, and even Jacoby, is that there was a number of ways that even radio would be very much involved in the community and everything. And I'm not seeing as much community involvement. I'm not saying that they don't have live remotes, but it was not as popular as it used to be. I mean, how many people that are watching us from New York and everything can remember the days of maybe a Wolfman Jack or somebody like that actually being at an event or being at a outside event, and definitely kind of like having that kind of communications and that kind of direct communications with the audience that they had. And while there are some folks that are doing that even here in North Carolina, I don't know that it is as popular as it used to be. And that's one of my frustrations. But Jim, you're in California, and Sasha, you're in Canada. Do you see as much of the radio announcers that are out and about the way they were in, say, the 90s, the 2000s, and definitely the 80s and the 70s? And is that something that you miss? Because it's like it's one that comes from radio, that was something that was a chance to meet those personalities, because definitely it was a very personality driven business and all along those lines. But just wanting your take on that, both Jim and Sasha.
Go ahead, Sasha.
Do you remember an old song by the name Death of the Radio Star? It was very popular many years ago,
Right.
30, 35 years ago. So that's exactly what's happening right now. And don't forget that so-called friends of United States, all they are trying is to divide American society, and they're increasingly successful. They're doing a fantastic job. Just for illustration purposes, you understand that all the influencers are such university professors or leading students of the university or so on. They are very influential to dictate the policies and politics. And I want to tell you something that I've just looked at the gifts, so-called gifts, for American university from foreign countries since 2012. Here is the statistics. Country of Qatar, $3 $3 billion. Don't know, scare you. $3 billion, 281 millions, and so on. China, 1.7 billion. Saudi Arabia, 1.4 billion. United Arab Emirates, $635 million. Kuwait, 338 million. Russia, 141 millions. I think we should ask Russia to contribute more. Because they're selling so much oil illegally, so they could contribute slightly more. Turkey, 81 million. Iraq, 45 million. So Iraq is being helped by so many countries. They have people who have nothing to eat. Iran contributes to American University $45 million, 45 and a half to be exact. Oh, Lebanon, $21 million. Pakistan, $6.5 million. Venezuela, $4 million. Have to increase, it's too little. Well, Syria is doing better, 1.3 million. Palestinian Authority, look at this, $1 million went from Palestinian Authority to American University. Do you need any comments about that?
Well, like I
You
said,
tell me.
the question would be how much of those influence are actually there, because I don't know, and Jacoby can, if he comes back, can say or not, but Mr. Beast is a major influencer here in North Carolina, and I've not seen him jump into the political fray yet at all. So there are a number of these influencers that don't jump into the political fray for whatever reasons that they choose to, and instead do a lot of interesting stunts and a lot of interesting conversations. There was even one influencer I was seeing that was out of California that was literally going to different restaurants and even talking about their dating life and all along those lines, because a lot of it is very to the mind of those of us that are older, irrelevant conversation, but they are very popular and they're doing a lot of conversations in that space. But we do have Jacoby back. So definitely your thoughts, Jacoby, because I was just thinking, because Sasha was mentioning the amount of money that the foreign countries were given to the universities and all along those lines. But I don't know how much they're given to the influencers per se, but I don't know that fact or anything. But your thoughts around influencers maybe being paid by foreign governments, whether that's Palestine or whether that's Russia or a number of other things. So that's what Sasha was bringing out. You're on mute, Jacoby.
He might not be able to hear.
I would like to mention something in addition to what I just told you. You understand how the Kuwait or Palestinian Authority or somebody else would channel billions of dollars to U.S. universities? What's the mechanics about that? What the Kuwait, for example, would approach all American universities, say, okay, we'll have money to donate. Would you please write us back if you want our money or not? And if you want, let us know, or so on. No, it's not going to happen that way. No. Their delegation travels to U.S. to approach individual university, professors who are responsible to decide what will be accepted and what's not. And they're talking to them, or these professors are being flown to Kuwait or somewhere else to make the decisions. And I would like to check these professors and influencers' bank accounts, because I don't believe that Kuwait could deposit $4 billion, and these professors and influencers will not get a little bit of a cut from this money. I just don't believe that's not how business is being run. Okay, full stop, period.
Well, like I said, there's, as I've mentioned
you
before,
differ between Russian business ethics and U.S. business ethics, Sasha.
U.S. business is even worse. I'll tell you.
You know, the thing is, in Russia and Ukraine, yeah, they get a cut. In the United States, if you get a cut, you can also get cut. But since I had worked in academia and I was a professor at Campbell University, an adjunct, and also an adjunct at Northeastern University, the universities I've worked at, they have people that basically solicit money for their endowments and their and so what happens, those are the people in charge of getting basically money in the door. Don't be surprised if it was actually the universities that approached these countries to make a donation to their endowments, which then they go ahead and do. And of course, they do like you do with politicians. Oh, no strings attached. Hint. Yeah. In other words, no strings attached. But they have what they call a an open door to call you. By the way, that's how it worked when I was working in Washington, D.C., Sasha. As a, let's see, I was on the board of the 12th largest political action committee in the United States, PAC money. And we gave money to congressmen. We gave money to senators, no strings attached. However, if I called them, here they came. Seriously, like I actually, when I was at Campbell Law School teaching, I called our senator and I asked our senator to come to do a special meeting with our professors. And of course he did, but that's because I was on the PAC and we made large contributions to senators. Campbell called me and said, how can you get a standing U.S. senator to show up? They even sent their head of endowment out to have a special lunch with me. I said, look, it's real simple. Write checks and they shall show up. And that's how the U.S. system works. So unlike in Russia and Ukraine, where they're kind of like overt about it, here we do it very quietly and professionally, where we don't say what we're doing, we just kind of do it.
Nick, one question. Okay, so you
Welcome to the U.S.
Let's say most likely you contribute to both parties, the Democrats and Republicans, and so therefore you can invite them for your show. Hopefully they will show up. Okay, so there is a certain exchange of goods happening, and because it's survival and it benefits both sides. Okay, so we can like it or not, we can accept it. But I just can't believe that those who are in charge of endowments and are getting the billions of dollars from countries like Qatar, they are completely independent and don't take a cut out of it. And if they don't take a cut out of it, then they're complete idiots, because they're doing something for the Qatar and Palestinian Authority and all these wonderful entities without even benefiting themselves. Why are they doing that?
Hold on a second. A lot of times endowments
from a corporation, Sasha. Right. So a lot of them don't get, quote, cuts like you're looking at. Right. They may get salary from a corporation, or like in our case, legislation that was much in our favor to our own particular business. And this goes on all the time in Washington, D.C., and the general public doesn't have a bloody clue.
I don't get it.
No, but hold on a second.
Hold on. You're saying that they are not benefiting from, say, Qatar $4 billion.
They are, but they benefit covertly as opposed to overtly.
How do they benefit? Just tell me.
Okay.
So $4 billion. How is this people benefit?
I'll wake you up. Okay. There's a big problem going on in Washington, D.C. right now. There's a group of people that want to create this fiduciary rule, which we see that lowers the amount of people that actually do qualified plans, because it puts our producers, our agents, in this position where they almost can't make a living. All right. So what happens next? And here's how we benefit. We write checks to the PAC. The PAC writes checks to the congressman. The PAC calls the congressman and tell him how bad the rule is. Please withdraw it. And then the congressman goes, you're right, the rule's bad. Let's withdraw it. After the campaign contribution went into their...
Nick, everything what you are just saying is not applying to a question that I raised. I'm talking about university endowment funds, and there are no government involvement, supposedly, and they are just working so hard on behalf of the endowment fund in getting the investment from Qatar of $4 billion, and they're just saying we are doing our job. But they have to initiate. Kuwait is not going to find who is the
salary by the university.
Yes, Sasha and Nick, and I did see Jim's hands up as well. As one that has worked with some. Hold on a second.
Of their performance, how well they can raise money. So if they can raise $4 billion from Kuwait and get even a fraction of their fees on top of salary what they're paying, so now that what motivates them to do anything. Other than that, I don't see why it makes sense.
But Sasha, hold on a second, and I did see Jim's hand up as well. if you are working with an endowment, I have worked with some theaters that are parts of endowments. I think Jim's probably even been parts of endowments as well. Unfortunately, because of that accountability that you're looking for, a lot of times people are not asking where the money is coming from. They may have a set goal for what the endowment is going to be, and they are accepting the checks. And a lot of times they're not asking where the money is coming from. I mean, some Qatar minister could be sending a check, and unfortunately, because there isn't a lot of accountability for where the money is coming from, it could be coming from a variety of sources. I know people that are in the drug game that might have been given investments to folks, and folks were not asking where that money came from. They were just glad to get money for whatever the cause of the endowment was.
Mark, I just open information sources, what I read for you. There is no question where the money is coming from narcotic sales or from this or from that. It's a Kuwait, what is it? Kuwait,
Qatar.
Qatar. Kuwait is there as well for a lesser amount. Okay, so Qatar officially put $4 billion in American universities. And so are the other entities like China, Saudi Arabia, United Emirates, Kuwait, Russia, Turkey. I read it, all that. So this is officially released information. So why are you telling me?
No, but I'm just saying, but like, how is the money coming in? Like, literally, I have two Chinese gentlemen that live, or a Chinese family that lives above me. Is there money coming for them to go to school here? I don't know that because I've not asked them that question and everything. So like I said, what is the purpose for the money? And that is also the question that could be asked and everything. As I've said on this show, and I'll say it again, I know a number of musicians that are from here because there is a hunger for Western music. They go to Qatar regularly, but they also do not do a lot of political conversation when they go there. I can bring some folks on here because they've been on other shows as well that have literally traveled to Qatar to perform because that country is very interested in the sounds of Michael Jackson, of all people, and everything.
Mark,
So they're going to perform there.
Everything what you just told. Are you trying to refute information that I've just said? And it's officially available, published information. So are you questioning the numbers or the
I'm
countries?
not questioning the numbers. I'm saying the question that you asked was how the money is coming in, and those numbers don't tell how the money is coming in or the purpose of the money. That's what I'm reviewing. Is you're giving a number, but you're not saying why the money came here. And you mentioned influencers. Hold a second. You mentioned influencers, and I just gave you the example earlier that Mr. Beast is an influencer. I don't know that he's getting any money from Qatar. I know he's getting a lot of money. But I don't know.
Let's start from the top. From the top, Kuwait invested in U.S. universities, not Kuwait, but in Qatar. Invested in U.S. university close to $4 billion. Are you disputing that or what?
I'm just saying, but the $4 billion, what is it for? That's what I'm asking you. Do you know that?
I don't care what is it for. I said that Qatar, which is as unfriendly country to U.S. as ever possible to imagine, except Russia and maybe North Korea, moved to U.S. university $4 billion. This is number one. It's undisputed fact. So now you say, yes, they did put $4 billion. But now you go and explain that this is $4 billion. It's just a beginning. It's a $4 billion. It's maybe $1 billion here and another billion over there. So maybe it didn't go to all American universities, but maybe to American universities and some maybe schools, but they treat it as a university. What are you telling me?
Do you know how many universities are here? Do you know how many universities are here? How many universities are here in the U.S.?
Period. Okay.
I got the numbers you're saying. I got the fact, but $4 billion going to which universities? Is it going to Harvard? Is it going to what's the purpose of it and everything? And I don't know that. Do you know that and everything? That's my question.
I don't care. I don't want to know.
I know you don't care. You don't want somebody to know. But I'm just saying.
Information that $4 billion been moved from Qatar to American universities. Now let's talk about American universities. So they had so much money, which was more than enough. They never struggling to find the money. Nevertheless, they are accepting $4 billion from Qatar, which is unfriendly as much as possible country to the United States. Full stop, period. Okay, now you explain that it's not so bad because... Go.
I'm trying to figure out the reasoning of them coming and sending the money and everything.
Thank you. Excellent job, Mark.
Well, let me just say that, it's not news that money buys influence. And I gave you the example of the Baltimore Sun. You know, did the billionaire that bought it expect to make it profitable? Of course not. You know, he's going to hire, and he already has hired people that are flamethrowers pro-Trump. So he's got an agenda. He's getting something. So that money, you can draw the dots. You know, he's paying this much money to get this kind of outcome. And it's not so clear from foreign country investments what they're trying to get. You know, we can't draw those conclusions as easily. The same with Russian money being filtered through a European bank to finance the loans that Trump wanted. You know, these are the types of things where you can see Russia wanted influence over Trump. And that's why they gave the money to the bank to lend to Trump. You know, you can draw those lines very clearly. What Sasha's bringing up, it's not clear what the outcome is and how the quid pro quo works. But there is some sort of quid pro quo going on. The other thing to tie it back to the original topic here, you know, I believe in continuing education, and I go to get continuing education every year. You know, and I live right by Stanford, so I go in person to Stanford to get continuing education classes and things that I'm interested in. But a lot of what I do is online, and a lot of what the universities are doing now is online. And I can take classes, and I have in Yale, Berkeley, you know, at any school that you can think of, I can get a class online, you know, as long as I pay for it. And so this movement to online is also happening. One other thing I wanted to bring up about the topic of the death of Sports Illustrated was that, you know, my sister-in-law worked in Midtown Manhattan in a beautiful building. You know, it was really prestigious, and everybody had, you know, good jobs that were paying well. And, you know, and now she's been a freelance writer. So not only is the building going away, the real estate issue affecting Midtown Manhattan because of the move away from print to online, but you know, her income is now, you know, hit or miss. You know, so the whole point of the print going away because the online world is affecting so many things, not just print, but also universities. And where the money goes, I guess I'll go back to Sasha on that. I'm not sure how you tie it off.
Jim, actually, it's very simple. Think about all this anti-Israeli, anti-Semitic demonstration on university campuses in United States of America. Who do you think organizes these movements? Who do you think is behind that? Are they some portion of $4 billion from Qatar being used to organize and pay for this demonstration and this movement? I'm pretty sure yes. Otherwise, it's very unclear why Qatar couldn't find a better use for this money. Maybe to build more tunnels in Gaza.
There is a rise in anti-Semitism. There's no question about it. It's well documented. But are Arab countries paying for that? That's not so clear to me. I think there are other forces at work that are just trying to divide us. You know, instead of being the United States, we're the divided states of America now. And, you know, there are many reasons why people are trying to divide us. And the anti-Semitism is one of them.
Hold on a second. Jacoby's got a question and he needs to get off of mute and everything. But just really quickly along before Sasha gets there, I have friends that have actually organized some of the protests that have gone against certain policies and everything. And I know for a fact, because I know some of where they get their money from, that it is not coming from Qatar. They're getting their money from other sources and all along those lines. So I can't say that it is all that Qatar $4 billion. I'm not saying that it's not part of it, but I can't say that it's all there because there are people that are passionate for whatever reasons. It comes down to what Jim said about divide. They are passionate about the issue and they have a certain viewpoint around the Palestinian state and even around Israel that might cause them to want to protest on their own and all along those lines, not because they got money from, say, Qatar or the Palestinian Authority. But Jacoby, your point.
This is how conspiracies thrive. You take a nugget of something that that has some little semblance of truth, and then you create an imaginary view about what's going on about it. We don't know what money, we don't know if it was an individual that was in Qatar that sent the money to a particular school. We don't know what the money was for. We don't know what the schools received the money. We don't know anything, but we know a number. And so because we know a number, we create an imaginary world around that number. And because we have these ideas, let me finish, Sasha. Sasha, let me finish. Sasha, let me finish. Please don't talk over me, Sasha. Sasha, I'm driving in a bad area. Sasha, you'll have your time. So what we do is we create these imaginary illusions to fit our own narratives, to make ourselves justify why that was there. We don't know, again, if it was a professor that was sent over and that professor from Qatar actually took money from Qatar, or that rich individual who used to live there now wants to donate back to a school that he actually loves. So we don't know anything about the money besides $4 billion Qatar school. And we took that and we ran with it. Hold on, Sasha, let me finish. Sasha, again, please allow me to finish. And we took that. Please allow me to finish, Sasha. Do not talk over me. I did not talk over you. I respected you. No matter what you said, please allow me to finish what I'm saying. So we took that and ran with it. We took that and ran with it to some point. No, Qatar is not funding these anti-Israeli protests that happen on campuses. But we took it and ran with it because it helps us justify and feel better about what that money came from. What we should be thinking about is understanding, yes, there's an anti-Semitism is on the rise. It is a problem that we really should look into, not conspiratorially by saying some country out there is funneling this money directly to these individuals. No, we shouldn't do that, because that just basically allows us to forget that, remember, we have neo-Nazis, we have white supremacists, we have white nationalists, which are white supremacists in our country, that are actually getting money themselves. And they are not needing other countries to funnel them money. They are able to funnel that money themselves because of the areas and the places that they receive their money from, or that they may have personal wealth that they're funneling and funding this. We have to look at how, for example, the leader of a party at this moment, that leader himself has actually had anti-Semitic individuals at his home and catered to them. A leader of a party quoting Hitler, leaders within the party actually expressing anti-Semitic views. They're not being funneled money from Qatar to say these things. That's what they say. So we cannot cloud this stuff or these sensitive situations with these conspiratorial ideas, because we don't have the information, and so we're just making stuff up. Like when you walk, you're scared of a dark area because you don't know what's there. You make up these imaginary things in your mind that there's a boogeyman down there. When you walk down that alleyway, there's nothing. There's nothing you should have feared. So what we actually should do, again, what we should do, Sasha, if you cannot provide what schools receive this money, if you cannot provide what this quid pro quo was for, just as Jim pointed out, then let's not spread misinformation like other news channels.
Listen to me. Information is published by United States.
What schools received this money?
Stop that.
What schools receive this money?
I don't care. All I'm saying is
therefore you don't have the information, and all you're doing is creating conspiracy.
Go to internet. You know, when you will stop driving,
you're in front of the internet. You're in front of the internet. You tell me. You brought it up.
I saying that source is U.S. Department of Education. That's the end of story. You want to find out who received so much money.
You brought up a conspiracy.
I don't care. All I mean,
you have nothing.
Published information by U.S. Department of Education. That's all I wanted to say.
You have nothing if you cannot prove it.
Hold on a second. Jim had a question.
Yeah, my take on this is that the pro-Palestinian demonstrations, I think, are there's an explanation for them, but I also think it's tragic in a way because I don't think they know what they're doing in some cases. You know, Israel's strike back on Gaza killed a lot of civilians, and people were outraged by that. And some of these people are protesting that, and I think there's a legitimate claim to do that. And people have the right to protest that. And I doubt very much that these people who only see that civilians are being killed by weapons that they can't even see coming are outraged by it. And there's also, you hear them people chanting things like "river to the sea," and it's so depressing to me because what that means is no Israel. And do I think that they know that by chanting that? I don't think they're anti-Semitic in that way. They just want the war to stop and civilians, mothers and children and hospitals being killed. They want that to stop. So there's a legitimate reason for this. Now, are the Arab countries trying to buy influence? Of course they are. How successful?
I would argue that that's across the board. I would argue that there are
absolutely
that are in the Israeli camp and in
that's why China's doing it. They're all trying to get influence, and money talks. So it's not a new story. It's an old story. It's always been true, but it's more true now than it's ever been because there are billionaires that are buying our politicians. And so one of the things that we have to do is regain our democracy. And how do we do that? We have to do it by shining some light on it. So I'm backing Sasha in saying this money is coming to the U.S. Department of Education, or how is it being distributed? We don't know yet. It's worth looking into. And how do we tie the ends together so we say, they're paying this to get that, but I'm not so sure that all these people that are protesting at the universities are being funded by these countries. I think that a lot of them need to be more informed about the origins and the history of that region. And they would be less likely to chant outrageous chants that they
But
have.
along those same lines, like I mentioned it earlier, I've got friends that have gone because it is a wealthy country, and sometimes it falls on one side of the Israeli conversation, and sometimes it falls on the other and everything. But for those friends of mine that have been fortunate enough to go to Qatar to perform, like I said, it's Michael Jackson music and everything. Would you tell them that they do not need to go to that country? Because they may be getting money that indirectly is supporting those situations and everything, but they're going there because they enjoy the music and they're checking out that particular new audience for them and everything.
So again, like I said, this is why we have to, and just as Jim said, we don't know what the money is for. We have no clue. I mean, could they be buying supplies? Could they be buying books? I mean, there's tons of things that we can fill that void with, but we cannot create some conspiracy around it because that creates a problem and it allows us to demonize people who, just as Jim pointed out, again, like some of the, and I completely agree. Some of those who are in the pro-Palestinian rally don't understand some of the chants that they're saying, but they are outraged because of what they see. Yeah. Some in the same, some on the other side as well. Some of the pro-Israeli rallies are doing the same because they hear particular things and we dig in so far and forget to talk. We forget about, like, for example, Netanyahu right now, his poll numbers are so sinking, and in his mind, his best way to stay in power is to continue on with the war. But no, we're not able to talk about that in a legitimate fashion because we dig in so much and forget that there are people dying. Let's think about a rational situation. Fareed Zakaria just recently, or actually yesterday, had one of the, I think it was the Saudi Arabian foreign minister, and talking about how they just want a legitimate path forward for a two-state solution for the Palestinian people. And that is what they are willing to help on as much as possible to make peace and to make it a peaceful area for both the Israelis and the Palestinians. But the thing is, there's such vitriol coming from those on the pro-Palestinian side in the U.S. and the same thing in the U.S. on the pro-Israeli side, where we cannot talk right now and think about a legitimate way to save the individuals who are innocent and just out there and being killed by these by the bombs that are going on. So you're now up to like 23,000 people is what I last heard. Yeah, sure. It got reported by the group that's controlled by Hamas. But are you telling me that it's it's such a far-fetched number looking at the destruction that's there just based on the reports and so on and so forth? So instead of arguing back and forth on, hey, they're wrong, so they should be, no, let's think about the innocent people and let's try and work together to create a solution, because both the Palestinian people should live in peace. The Israeli people should live in peace. Let's think of a solution for those people.
Sasha, and just really quickly, hold on 1 second. I just wanted to play a tape that actually I found very powerful that I actually enjoyed. Now everybody's going to enjoy it and everything, but during the NFL championships, there has been a videotape that has been going that actually speaks to what I think Jacoby is, which is that we need to hear both sides and that there is a rise in hate in all. And this is only about a minute, so let me play this and then I'll hear from you, Sasha. But this is the tape out.
Good video. I wanted to say, to finish off with this funds from Qatar, etc. I want to tell you that these are the headline is say this gifts, quote unquote, for American universities from foreign countries. So they are gifts. They're not provided to buy supplies, as Jacoby says, or anything like this. They're gifts. You can do with them anything what you want with this money, okay? Number two, when you're saying that a lot of innocent people are being killed in this war, what's your opinion about Second World War? Weren't there a lot of innocent people being killed in Europe, in all countries? There are about 6 million Jews. The Jewish population before Second World War was 18 million people in the world. Today, 80 years after the World War finished, it's only 15 million people. So they haven't even achieved the numbers what they had before.
So you're trying to justify the deaths of these individuals by basing it on some arbitrary number that you're creating. You're trying to connect, not an arbitrary number, but you're trying to connect it to another number based on another war that, oh no, they didn't kill this many, so these people aren't. I don't understand the justification of death. That's the thing that we're having a problem with, Sasha.
The history is filled with horror.
No, there are two standards. There are two standards. The killing.
They're not two standards.
Listen to me. Come on. In Second World War, they were on one side Americans and Englishmen.
Sasha, again,
there are three so powerful countries that nobody would give a damn how many Germans would be killed and women raped, and Japan with all this nuclear weapons used against civilian population or so on. Nobody could say a word or even think about going to demonstration. United States is killing innocent people. The Englishmen.
Sasha, again,
people in
I don't
Russia.
understand your reference because, again, I am a person who believes that these individuals, the 23 some odd thousand people that have passed away based on this war,
Listen,
they are.
I will not allow you.
I'm saddened by that.
I will not allow you to talk over me.
Go for it.
Period, okay? I'm spending my time and my expertise, knowledge on this program not to be interrupted by people like you. Now,
Okay.
in the case of Gaza, there is no US,
People like me. Okay.
and it's not Russia. It's a little Israel. The dirty Jews are killing peaceful Palestinians. Let's attack them. Let's demonstrate. Let's demand. Let's do that. In Second World War, nobody would think about it demonstrating against US, England, or Russia. That's the biggest difference.
No, you tried to make a connection between what's going on in Israel and Gaza right now to the Second World War. There's no connection. It's two completely different things. Right now, you have two countries. Right now, you have two. You have the people who live in Gaza, and you have actually Hamas and Israel, and people trapped in the middle. And that's what you're not thinking about. I understand that you just stated that you didn't want people talking over you. People like me, and then you want to talk over people like me. So there's your double standard. That's how you try and do things. So let's try and continue on a civil conversation around this topic and not try and snap back and forth and make some political or some I gotcha moments. I'm just pointing out the fact right now, there are people dying, and we're sitting here trying to argue about World War II. That's not a connection. That's not something we should be even focused on. Right now, we should talk about what Mark brought up in that commercial, how the rise in anti-Semitism is there. Why is that there? What's going on, and how can we stop that? Because that also is causing a problem in the war that's going on. How can we stop the rise in the anti-Islamic hate that's there, or the anti-Muslim hate that's there, which is also part of the problem? Those are the things that we need to discuss. Those are the things that we need to create solutions for, not talking about World War II and saying, well, they didn't kill as many people as they did in World War II, so therefore it's okay. Oh, nobody protested against the American. That's not what we should be doing. That doesn't help a conversation. That's only there to give
Jim,
you some moral high ground or justify your feelings around the Palestinian people. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Jim
has his hand up.
Jim had his hand up. I was going to say, in World War II, there was no real coverage. People didn't understand. I grew up protesting against nuclear reactors. So, if we had seen it on television, who knows how many protests there would have been. Because, I can remember when we first, the Desert Storm, that was televised. And people had amazing reactions to it. And people would say, I'm going to go home and watch the war. That just wasn't possible now. So the fact that we're seeing this stuff in our faces every day is part of the reason that people are outraged now when they wouldn't have been in the past. And not that they would not have been if they had known, if they had felt it, if they had seen it the same way. So part of what people used to be able to get away with stuff was because it wasn't reported, and they got away with it because people just didn't believe when you told them. But now when you see it, you see the proof. And so people are justifiably upset about this. And there is a rise in anti-Semitism, and part of it is anti-Semitic. There's no question in my mind about that. However, there's also other factors going on. And so I do think that we have to include like the people that are trying to divide the country and making us hate all aspects of it, whether it's Muslims, whether it's Jews. They don't care if you're non-white, they hate you. Go ahead, Josh Session.
Jim, I would like to remind you that atrocities against Jewish population by Germans, first of all, Germans were trying to hide it as much as they could until the end of the war, essentially, which Hamas was not trying to do that at all. They were actually publicizing.
Yes.
They're making movies. They were making the events out of what they've done on October 7th. Now, by the time, say, around 1942, the atrocities by Germans against Jews in Europe, they were already known and discovered. However, Russia, for example, couldn't do much about it at that time because they were busy. They were fighting for survival against Germans' attack, against Moscow first, against Stalingrad then, and so on. Now, English and Americans they were taking very cautious approach about invading Europe, and finally they did complete invasion only in 1944, when most of the 6 million were already killed. And yes, they were able to save a few Jewish people in Auschwitz and a few other camps, but most of them were already killed. And what was the Jewish population? 6 million people who were being killed. They were living in different countries, whether it's Poland and Germany itself, or Hungary, and so many countries. They were not militants.
No one's defending the Holocaust.
Nobody's defending the Holocaust at all, but there were protests that were going on and everything, because this was actually after World War II, when tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers really attempted a mutiny and actually won the mutiny, because folks did not want, there was going to be a kind of a mobilization to keep the peace in that area, and there were a number of folks that were upset by that. So they actually, and this was after Japan's surrender, and definitely there was a number of folks, because apparently we wanted to maintain a troop force of 2.5 million and all along those lines. So there were definitely 20,000 that demonstrated in Honolulu, 3,000 joined them in Korea, and 5,000 in Kokta, and in Guam, 3,500 Air Force troops staged a hunger strike. So I'm sure that many people did not know this because it's not as much covered, because we didn't have the video, to your point, Jim. But that was a case of a protest that took place in that time and all along those lines. And before we get out of here, I did want to show this tape as well, because I do believe in being fair. And there's actually, this comes out of Canada and everything. And this was from a couple of months ago, where some people were complaining about the Muslim hate that exists as well. So in a case of being a little bit fair, I'm going to play this tape as well, and then we'll get ready to get out of here shortly. I might have a lighthearted one that has nothing to do with what's going on in the whole world politics, but this is
You're addressing Hamas. Hamas, a terrorist.
Thank you.
All of you idiots who think that is Palestine against Israel.
It's like rewinding back to the days of 9/11, when Muslims suffered tremendously.
Several NGOs have reported a surge in anti-Islam hatred and anti-Arab racism in North America.
Since October 7th, we've seen an increase of over 1,000% in incidents that are reported to us from schools, colleges and universities, in the streets, transit, in workplaces.
You should be raped and dragged through the streets in front of your kids. That's what you
Okay,
do.
thank you.
In Canada, several Muslims received murder threats, and in the US, the annual banquet of the Council on American Islamic Relations had to be relocated after terror threats.
As we know, incidents are very, very underreported. You can only imagine what the true number is.
I'm not doing anything violent. I'm just saying you are terrorists. That's it. Okay. No violence. Showing your true colors. Showing your true colors. It's not even a case. What the government of Palestine?
We've seen graffiti in apartment buildings that say "Kill all Muslims." There's a public library in Ontario that actually took down their Islamic Heritage Month display. We're asked to apologize for actions that happen in another country that do not have necessarily anything to do with us.
So like I said,
Thank you for showing that. It's a very, very weak statement of what they used there, but at least they can. I think that's the best what they can do. That's fine.
there's other ones that I can get.
Hold on, real quick, Mark. Sasha,
these individuals expressed being attacked the same way the individuals who were Jewish expressed being attacked. What makes their view weak?
Well, if you take a history of even 9/11, okay, in 9/11, they were millions of Muslims around the world who were cheering and who were so happy about what's happening in New York. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And therefore, you cannot escape that.
What-
Although maybe a lot of Muslims were against that, but there are a
So,
lot of people who were very happy about it.
so you feel that the views of Muslims who just express the same views of being about their sadness about being attacked, the same way the Jewish individuals were being attacked. I mean, it's the same thing. You took their views as weak because of some conspiracy that Muslims were happy about 9/11.
That's one thing. Another thing is, don't forget.
So
that
do you, so since you've already answered,
trying to answer
So-
your question. So
Okay.
you should appreciate the fact that there are about 2 billion Muslims in the world, and they are very much together, protecting each other, having their voice in all continents and so on. There are only 15 millions of Jews around the world. It's almost 15 times less than Muslims. And not
so you're not listening to what you're not listening to all of what I just stated to you.
I'm just trying to answer your question.
I got what you,
There's
but I have
no
a quick question
one
for you.
is
So I can-
going to protect Jews against anti-Semitism except Jews themselves. That's
Didn't
what.
listen to a word I stated,
No, they couldn't do it.
Sasha. So what I asked you,
They are
what I legitimately asked you, and we'll do it this way. Say you just stated that again. All this bloviating that you did at the end doesn't change what you stated. You considered that an individual telling you that their community is being abused and there's a spike in that, well-documented spike in that. You consider their views to be weak based on a bias that you have, so you're saying that you don't care that these individuals are being harmed and abused based on your biases.
Okay, I'll tell you, there are 2 billion Muslims.
I'm not asking for numbers and all this other stuff. I don't care about that.
To protect them.
You stated.
Don't talk over me.
You stated. I
Protect
asked you a question.
billion
I asked you a question.
people. This is my answer. to
You stated
Hey, I
that
don't care anymore.
you don't care about somebody being abused because of your previous biases.
Listen what you're saying. What I'm saying is that there are 15 million Jews in the world.
You've already stated that.
Nobody will
You've already
ever
stated this.
them except themselves. This is why Israel has to
You
punish.
stated all this, but you're not listening.
No, you listen to me.
You are not listening to anything.
Punish enough on
You
a
don't.
massacre, so nobody ever in the world will.
You're not listening. You're not listening at all.
It's okay. I'm done.
You
Thank
have
you.
stated.
We get ready to end. But I did have my quick question
Yeah.
for him, which he was not going to answer, but I know we get ready to end the show and everything. Is he keeps stating this number of the amount of Muslims, but one of the things we talk about on this show oftentimes is that it is not a monolithic group. I mean, there's Sunnis,
Yeah.
there's Shiites, there are a variety of different types of Muslims. So I'm sure there are different types of people in the Jewish population as well. But to say that it is 2 billion Muslims assumes that they are one unified group when we know that there are multiple countries, multiple even ways of governing in those Muslim countries. I think some of them are monarchies and some are a little bit more in the capitalistic system and all along those lines, and maybe being something socialistic. But I do know that even in the U.S., we've got the Farrakhan Muslims versus the W. Dean Muhammad Muslims, and we're not even talking about like the other groups that have nothing to do with that, but that are related to them, like the Black Jews and all along those lines. And then we've got Black Hebraites, and then we've got Sunnis and Shiites, and there might be other factions as well.
Well, the thing that he would not even listen to is how bigoted the comment he was making was. The fact that he said that these individuals, because they're Muslim, their complaint about being abused is weak, and he doesn't care. That is exactly what he's saying. And that within itself is the problem within our society, is that people have views like that. So rather than helping someone, he's willing to let somebody suffer just based on who they are, just based on their religion, or just based on their race. That is extremely bigoted. And I hate to say it that way because it's such an inflammatory term, and you're not supposed to say it unless it is truthful. But that is the definition of bigotry.
Yeah. He
is literally condemning someone based on something that they cannot control, based on their religion they're born into, or that they're brought up into, or that's their life, or their race within themselves, being born. And I like doing a lot of the Fareed Zakaria stuff, and I know Steve does too, but I'll see if I can find it, and it's something that you can play, because he did an interview with an individual who was writing a biography about a young lady who had escaped out, or an elderly woman who had left out of North Korea and dealt with all the propaganda and everything else that she was having to deal with.
Yeah,
and it was an interesting. It was such an interesting interview, and it just epitomized everything, like the propaganda that she had to believe, that she had to say something. So she was saying all these nice things about North Korea, and then her daughter told her that these individuals are not North Korean, so she can be honest. And then her tone changes about what it was.
Yeah.
And then she saw that, okay, well, these are American. And she feels like they're the devil within them at first, or, that they're so nice, but they've got to be planning to kill me still, because that's what she was taught.
Yeah,
and
you saw that even in the anti-Muslim tape with that woman in the car that was thinking that they were going to attack and kind of rape her and all along those lines, because that's what the imagery was of what she had seen in that attack on October 7th. But he was responding as like the gentleman was, I'm not a terrorist. I'm not even here for that reason and everything. So I thought that was a fair statement and all along those lines. But we're going to get on out of here. I just have a lighter story that I was going to bring up, because I found a news story when we were talking about the media and everything. And I actually had the pleasure of interviewing the gentleman that had the Grey Poupon on his car and all along those lines when I was working in Florida. So I found one of the old Grey Poupon commercials, because he actually had a luxury, I think it was a Rolls that he had Poupon on the back of it, because he actually rented the car that was in that famous commercial. So I'd actually written a story back when I was in Boca Raton about this particular car and this particular gentleman and everything that owned the car. But this is the car that was featured in the commercial. So I thought we'd have a little fun and play a little bit of Grey Poupon on the way out and everything. And I don't think you have any Grey Poupon in your car. And I think the gentleman that I did the story on back in the 80s did have some Grey Poupon, but I'm seeing you driving and I don't think there's any Grey Poupon in the car. And I know it's not a Rolls and everything, but we'll have a little fun with this and then maybe the Pod TV story and get on out of here. But that was a robust conversation, and we'll have another one on tomorrow. But let's go out with a little bit of Grey Poupon.
The finer things in life. Happily, some are affordable, like Grey Poupon Dijon mustard. Grey Poupon is so fine, it's even made with white wine. Its original French Dijon recipe adds distinctive flavor to beef, pork, and poultry, salad dressing and sauces, and of course, sandwiches. So enjoy one of life's finer pleasures.
Pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon? But of course.
Grey Poupon, one of life's finer pleasures.
Now, from the cafes of Paris comes the inspiration for a new kind of mustard. Introducing Grey Poupon Parisian. Created especially for sandwiches, its distinctive flavor gives even the simplest foods a sophisticated accent.
Pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon Parisian?
But of course. New Grey Poupon Parisian, another of life's finer pleasures.
Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon?